And who wants to be either a volunteer or voluntold this morning to introduce themselves? I'd like to have 3 folks introduce themselves this morning. So who'd like to go first? Stephen, you want to start us off?
I will introduce myself, yes. I just first of all want to say hello to everyone. Thank a few people who I already recognize here, including yourself. My name is Stephen Snow. I was the general manager and development director at Bob Blue Theater until very recently when COVID hit and my job was dissolved. So I came here at the advice of several people, including Jana, to introduce myself and say, hey folks, I'm looking for work. If Congress doesn't do something soon, I'll have to drive back east in a couple of weeks. So it's that kind of situation. So I really appreciate being here and the chance to look in and see what this is all about. I was working so much at Bob Blue, I knew about these meetings, but I was just never able to really attend. So thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you. So we'll look forward to seeing who we can connect you with and what that looks like. And then I've got a couple of private messages. So let's start with Allison O'Brien.
Hi all, thanks so much for kind of letting me join you on this. You'll hear a little bit more about me, I think, with Jana, but I am the founder of a consulting firm called Peak Impact Consulting Services, and I do work in leadership development in corporate communication with a focus on listening and listening science. So I'm excited to hear more about what you all do.
Great, thank you, Allison. And then I've got Amy Ledger and then Geneva, and we'll be done for the morning. So Amy.
Hey, Jana. Actually, my last name is pronounced Leger. I know it doesn't work that way.
Yes,
it's just
I know.
Easier. It's okay. No problem. I work with MAPR Agency, and we have offices in Fort Collins, Boulder, and Denver. And we're a PR agency, full service. We do everything from websites to SEO to public relations, obviously, and social media, all kinds of different things. And I'm glad to be joining you guys here today.
Great. Good to have you. You look like you're cozy there.
I am. I had to go into my bedroom because my in-laws are here and things are noisy out in the rest of the house.
Those things happen.
Yeah.
All right. Geneve, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. I'm Geneve Huxley, owner of Huxley CPA Consulting. I do outsourced CFO work to save small and medium-sized businesses the cost of a full-time CPA without sacrificing the valuable financial guidance that they need to run their business. I can help with interpreting financial data, how best to pivot the company, our favorite word, pivot, completing cash flow analysis, making recommendations for improving cash flow, budgeting, forecasting, reviewing the bookkeeper's work to make sure they're doing it right, and implementing internal controls to make sure that the money that you make stays yours. Thanks.
Perfect. I like that. The money I make stays mine, as opposed to, you know, everyone else who wants a piece of it. All right. So starting us off this morning, do we have announcements or events that are going on out there in the world? Natalie, how about you kick us off?
Yeah, I just want to say I've been in touch with Leandra. So she just wanted to say hi to everybody. So that's the only announcement I have. She said she's not able to join because of all the kitty times and schedule, but misses the community and wants to make sure that we all know she is there with us without being in the meeting itself. So that's all I have.
There we go. So for those of you who don't know Leandra, she is a coach and works with helping women position themselves a little bit more around comfortableness of money. And also, aside from managing her house full of kids, she now has a baby cow that she is also handling every morning. So if you're interested in following up with her, that would be the fun fact to talk with her about.
Yes. Cows,
Ozzy,
horses,
what have you got for us this morning?
Good morning, everyone. So I wanted to just offer this. I'm a member of the Loveland Toastmasters Club, and lately we've been approached by people who are doing a great deal of Zoom presentations and other kinds of presentations. One of the things that we do is help you deliver a compelling speech. And so oftentimes what we notice is that Someone may have a good slide deck. They may have a good, compelling presentation, but then getting up in front of people and talking can be a challenge. And doing that through Zoom and some of the new social media can be equally challenging. And Toastmasters specializes in helping people communicate. And we specialize in business communications. That's what we do in the Loveland Toastmasters. So if you're interested, we're having an open house next Tuesday. We meet early at 6:30 in the morning. And part of the reason is that people want to get back to work. And usually work begins around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And you can show up and then still make it to work. So anyways, we're making a concerted effort to help people communicate better during these times. And so if you're interested, I'll shoot my email and contact information. Please feel free to reach out. One great thing, I guess one of the good things about this crazy situation we're in is that whereas before everybody was always around where we met, now because we're doing so much over Zoom, it doesn't really matter. Geography seems to matter a lot less than it used to. So.
Yeah. I know that Toastmasters group is a good one. My boss, Chris Hutchinson, and Diana run a good chunk of that, if I have the right one, Ozzy. I don't know many others that meet at 6:30 in the morning. I think you all might be just a little crazy.
What, crazy during these times? We're perfectly sane, like everybody.
All right, Jenny, what have you got going on?
I wanted to announce, because I'm going to be traveling the next 2 weeks, so I will miss you all, that Appendance Inc., so my company that works on helping people write better professionally, is partnering with the DWC, the Digital Workshop Center, to have a free session August 18th at 5 o'clock. So there's a Facebook event post that I can pop into the chat to share with people, but it's a free workshop through the Digital Workshop Center on establishing your credibility in writing. And my online course has been going. We're in the middle of our second session working with participants. It's a 6-week course helping people learn how to do strategies for improving their professional writing. And our third session will start September 8th. So that feels like really far away from me right now, but then
it's really not.
It's really not. Yeah, CSU will be back in session before that. So,
okay, great.
So those are the announcements.
All right, we have 2 more announcements, and then we'll get into our presentations. So, Denny, good to see you, sir.
Yes, good to see you all. As you know, I'm part of Rocky's Venture Club, which is Colorado's largest angel investor network. So we're having our next annual large conference, Colorado Capital Conference 2020, on August 12th and 13th. And if you're interested in watching 10 or 12 companies pitch for investment money, this is a great place to see the quality of the pitches that you need to have in order to get investment from angel investors. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email and I can send you the information. It costs about $150. It's all virtual for the first time, like all other events. Angel investments are actually up during this pandemic time, which may be contrary to what you might think, what investors are behaving these days. But I just had a web podcast interview with Tyler Brooks on his podcast, a narrative podcast, and I talked about that. So if you're interested in that, you can listen all kinds of stats on where the debt investors are and equity investors are. So that would be interesting. By the way, Colorado Capital Conference, the keynote speaker is Brad Felt, famous venture capitalist from Colorado. So if you're interested in hearing him, it'll be a great opportunity as well. So there you have it.
Great, thank you, Denny. I already have my ticket, so I'm looking forward to that. And then Brian, did you have one last announcement before we dive in?
Absolutely. So I'm sure none of you are impacted at all by Amazon, Apple, Google, or Facebook at any point in your life whatsoever. Their CEOs are testifying before the House Antitrust Subcommittee today. It was postponed due to the recent death of Mr. Lewis. But that is today. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on C-SPAN. And they're trying to determine if Facebook might be anti-competitive. Shocking though that concept might be. So if you're interested in that, it's online. It starts at 10 Mountain Time, I believe.
Fantastic. I think Facebook could argue that MySpace still exists, in theory.
Really?
You can still have an account, I swear. Okay. So wanted to get us started, and we've got two presentations this morning. So we have Harrison, who will be going first, and then yours truly, who will be going second. So this ought to be entertaining for everyone. So we will get started with Harrison here. And just as a reminder, please mute yourself while other folks are presenting. And we will do raised hands for the questions afterwards. So you're going to want your participant box open, and the group chat is always entertaining. All right, Harrison, our fun fact for Harrison this morning is that he was the designated bullet catcher for Merle Haggard when Merle Haggard made the lovely mistake of sleeping with another man's wife. All right, Harrison, I will share this, but you can start when you are ready.
Okay. I'll wait for that to come up and
and there we go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Harrison Hand, in case I haven't met you. And I'm really kind of bringing everybody up to date on where my company is. A lot of you have seen me go through iterations to get to this point, and like a lot of us, COVID has kind of forced us into making some adjustments, and been the same for me as well. So the reason that I had that story as my kind of introductory fun fact is because I'm a writer. A lot of you know that because you know that I've written books. I have the Skylar Tortuga series out, a spinoff series from that, and a backstory book out, and that's kind of what I've focused on the last 5 years. But one of the reasons it took me a while to get into writing books is that I followed the advice that I had as a kid to write what you know about. And it's like, well, if I'm going to write, then I want to know a lot of things, so I want to have a lot of experiences. And that was one of the experiences. I was doing backstage security at an amphitheater in Nashville. And so that's something that I've actually incorporated into the background for my character in the series, and the whole story verse that is now getting ready to launch a global treasure hunt called Key Quest. And what you see on the screen is the cover of the book. The book will contain all of the clues, and so it still comes under Permia Press, which has published the other books. But it kind of goes back to some things that I've done in the past, which I think is the other point, is that when we shift, we don't just necessarily have to look at where we are with our company right now. It's what have we done in the past that we can incorporate to pivot successfully. And the Key Quest treasure hunt comes from the fact that I buried a couple of keys to unlock a secret treasure vault 7 years ago. At the same time, I created this Dragonstone Prophecy, which is on the cover of the book. And actually, if you want to take a screenshot of it, it does have clues on where the keys are buried. So just a heads up if you want to get a head start on that. But the other thing that occurred when COVID hit that kind of shifted my focus from, I was doing the books and had launched a web series. And it was pretty dark. The web series had conspiracy theory kind of behind it. Some of that's woven into the storyline. When everything blew up with COVID and conspiracy theories started popping up all over the place, and all these horrible things started happening, and tension and uncertainty. It's like, well, people aren't going to follow the video series because they can't escape reality doing that. It was too close to reality, so I kind of had to figure, what do I do? And the other thing that I looked at in what's happening is we are so divided as a nation, and science is being denied, and my whole story universe is based on the concept that magic is science we don't understand. Because the series kind of grew out of a toy competition to design STEM toys for girls. So science, I think, is a very important part of the series, but we also need to have imagination. So that's what I wove into the stories. So when there was so much pushback against mask wearing, even though the science is very strong and what's happened in other countries shows that it does help stop the spread of COVID, I got tired of arguing with people on Facebook. I thought there's got to be a more positive approach to this. And so I brought Jalapeno to life, who is actually a third generation cartoon pig. Again, going back to this theme of using things that you've done in the past. His grandfather was a cartoon pig that helped get a stalking law passed in Indiana. So it's like I can use humor, I can use a softer approach to get things done. And so Jalapeno has started a campaign that is called Jalapenos Masketeers. And it's really to focus on people who are wearing masks to protect other people or heroes. And it's really to highlight the humanity and the compassion, which is a part of the Dragonstone Heroes prophecy, is that a new generation of heroes with strength of character, courage of heart, and compassion for those mistreated would arise. So it kind of ties into everything that's going on right now. So what I'm looking for with where things have shifted with the company, I've already kind of started doing by partnering with Color Pocket, who are doing the coloring cards for Jalapenos Masketeers to raise money for a nonprofit that is actually working with kids that are high risk. And the pandemic, of course, has closed them down. So it's to raise money to keep them afloat so that when they can start serving these kids again, they'll still be there to offer their services. So it's a strategic partnership. And that's a part of what I'm looking for here is a strategic partnership. As many, if you have any ideas of strategic partnerships. And the other part of that is I'm looking for opportunities to talk on podcasts, to get exposure for what I'm doing with Jalapenos Masketeers, but also with the Treasure Hunt, because the idea of putting that forward is I think the economy is going to be hurting for a while, and a lot of people are going to be hurting for a while. So this is a fun way for people to get creative and to dream and not get sucked into social media all the time, and actually start using their creative thought process to find these keys that unlock a secret treasure vault. And that secret treasure vault is the treasure, and it's going to grow as I can bring on, again, strategic partnerships who will contribute to the prize package. The initial prize package is the original carving on this prophecy and a Maze Maiden doll that is a part of the story itself. So they're basically artifacts from the story universe as the beginning of that prize package. But as we grow and it becomes more popular, I want that prize package to grow as well. And that's the reason I buried keys instead of burying some treasure. I want to be able to grow the value of winning the prize. And hopefully that will help spread the word too as we bring on those strategic partners. So basically, kind of in conclusion on what I'm doing is, I'm looking for opportunities to get the word out, to be on podcasts, to get media, have media contacts, looking for strategic partnerships with people that want to be a part of the prize package, and kind of help that grow. So that kind of concludes where I am in terms of my shift from where I was before COVID hit.
Great. Thank you, Harrison. That's a lot of stuff you've got going on right there. And I'm very excited to hear about prize packages and keys being buried in fun places, that sort of thing. So who has questions, comments, thoughts for Harrison? And I've lost, all right, Melissa, let's have you kick us off.
Okay, good morning. I think this is so interesting, Harrison. Thank you for sharing what you've been up to. And I would love to hear how we can follow along with you. So maybe you can pop that in the chat and we can keep up with your character. One thought I had about getting on podcasts, I'm a part of a podcast community on Facebook, like a Facebook group, and I can put the link to that group in the chat, but I don't know, are you involved in any? There's quite a few of those types of groups that go on Facebook where there's people that have podcasts that are looking for guests and people that are guests that want to be on podcasts. So
no, that's great. Yeah, I'm not plugged into that. You can only do so many things, so a podcast was not something I wanted to do, but I know that they're pretty popular and they can reach a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go find that link to it and send it to you in the chat. Okay,
and I will put the web address in the chat. It's dragonstoneheroes.com.
Okay. And then my other question was, what is the age group? What is the target for these items?
Basically, like the books that I have are like PG-13.
Okay.
Or actually more PG. The movie was PG-13. So the books are PG, so it's young readers like age 9 and up. The treasure hunt kind of fits in that as well. The coloring cards actually can be, for younger kids, because a part of the reason for doing that is for kids who like to dress up and be superheroes, to make it easier for them to wear their face masks and develop compassion for others at the same time. So that can be much younger. But in general, it's like young reader on up, which is like age 9 and up.
So then my other suggestion would be to get involved in some of the parents groups. I know obviously with the alternative schooling that's happening, there's a lot of parents that are looking for ways to really support and enhance what their kids will not be doing in school. So
yes, that's a good suggestion as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Ben, what have you got for us this morning?
Hey, good morning. Harrison, you probably already, given the nature of what you said, I wouldn't be surprised if you're already connected, but are you involved with the geocaching community at all or aware of it?
I'm not. I'm familiar with it, but that's a different concept.
Yeah, so just your story kind of made me think of that, and hey, you've hidden these keys, and it's already a very well-established community of adventurous people that I think could kind of springboard you if you have, hey, this is something that we're doing for this good cause. it's related to what this activity that you already enjoy. So maybe try reaching out and plugging into the geocaching community. I know REI supports it a lot, so maybe even just going to a couple local REIs and talking to people there. So yeah,
okay.
Take that angle, see if it goes anywhere.
No, that's a great idea. I'd kind of overlooked that, so thanks for bringing it up.
Great. Marcus?
Just an idea. It speaks to one of my hobbies and pastimes. Have you ever considered doing something a little more interactive? I've played tabletop RPGs since I was in high school, so like, Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or what have you. Just a thought for you is if if you're looking for a collaborator or something, I'd be willing to help you out sometime to get a really stripped down set of rules that are a lot more kid friendly. If you'd ever want to work on the kind of the collaborative storytelling that I think tabletop RPG engenders. So at some point, if you'd want to take a look at it from that angle and incorporate that kind of storytelling into your universe, I'd be willing to give you a hand with the mechanics and the probabilities.
Okay. Yeah, when all these stay-at-home restrictions lift a little bit, there are a lot of things that I thought about being more interactive. But we got to get through that first, but I think that's a great idea.
Great. Well, that kind of wraps us up nicely in time. Thank you, Harrison. Appreciate that very much. Going through with that, and everybody can grab their cup of coffee, take your sip, and go from there. And we will get started. I'm going to run the next presentation because I'm presenting. This is the interesting thing. Technically, I was supposed to be presenting next week, and we had a cancellation for today. So moved me up a week, so this is not perfected, but that's what this is for. And we also still have a hole for August 5th. So if you guys have interest in presenting with a week's notice, I promise it's possible, you are welcome to do so next week and let Natalie know what that looks like. All right. I'm going to share my screen again here and get started. So the fun fact I have about me this morning that I'm not sure everybody knows is that I am literally terrified of the sound of electric can openers. And if anyone were to use an electric can opener in my presence, I go running from the room and instant flooding of tears. No idea why. No massive trauma in my background or life. I just simply cannot handle the noise of electric can openers. So, fun notes for y'all to have on that today. Okay.
Definitely.
So I'm going to get started here with the ask. And so your mission this morning, if you choose to accept it, is the problem that Allison and I with this workshop are trying to solve clear? Does the value of the solution seem to be effectively communicated for everybody? Do you know who this is for? Can you identify the audience that this is? And would you be able to recommend this to the right person moving forward? I have a tiny little note, but since Cindy Skalicki isn't here, she can't yell at me for how many words I have on my slides. If I'd had more time, they'd have less words. All right, so for those of you who didn't know, I'm Jana Sanchez. I have a company called Alchemy with Words, and I want to talk to you today about a workshop that I'm co-producing with Allison O'Brien of Peak Impact Consulting about communicating for outcomes and changing the way you do business one conversation at a time. So before I get too much farther, I would like you all to find the chat box and be able to put a 1 or a 5 or somewhere in between in there, because I have a couple of questions for you. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 5, toss into the chat for me. What just happened there? Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, do you believe you are a good communicator? Second question. Are you as successful as you need to be working with others? Okay, so we believe we're good communicators. I saw a bunch of 4s go by. We don't commit to 5s, but we saw a bunch of the 4s go by. Not as successful as we want to be working with others. Is the way you communicate creating the outcomes that you need? Are you landing the clients? Are you moving your conversations forward? So about midway, we're getting some feedback to that, okay? Do you make an impact on your clients? I like seeing the 5s come through on that, yep, okay. And do you influence the decisions your prospects and collaborators make with your communication? Okay, good stuff there, guys. Thank you for moving that forward for me. So communication is the vital heart of everything that we do as business people, and it is the most important skill that you can have as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur in order to be able to move your business forward and impact your clients profoundly. So why are we talking about communication now when many of you already feel like you're decent communicators and making the impact you want? Well, communicating is different right now. Right? Wave your hand up for me if you feel like communicating in pandemic world is different than you've been communicating before. Right? Yes. Both hands. Yeah, I like it. So we are currently in the midst of communicating in different mediums than we are used to communicating in. And we would have to rely on different skills to communicate. The instinctual habits we've had that have given us context and clues to how the other person is feeling and reacting are largely gone on screens, right? So we're losing that vital information of body language, of energy about how people are feeling and what energy you're getting back as you're presenting to them. The little looks, right? You remember being in a room together and somebody would say something and you'd side-eye your neighbor? The side-eye does not happen over Zoom. You can try, but it really doesn't happen over Zoom, right? And engagement is significantly down. And actually, I can tell you, I've noticed it with 1 Million Cups as well. We don't engage nearly as much with questions and comments and feedback as we do as when we are in person. And so the quality of that communication and the discussion is gradually eroding. So now more than ever, clear, effective communication is vital, and no, seriously, it is. Because we are no longer allowed to work on our charisma in groups. And so now we have to actually figure out how to communicate through screens. We're having a harder time with it. We're not catching everything that we need to because we're multitasking. I have 3 screens in front of me right now. Am I focused on one person when I have a conversation anymore or in those meetings? So our new reality requires a new kind of communicator. And in that, we're hoping that communicators moving forward understand their own cognitive patterns and habits, as well as have the agility to shift your habits to meet the needs of the conversation to get the best outcomes that you need, right? How many of you need more clients? How many of you need more business? And how many of you actually need to feel like you had a good, productive Zoom meeting? I saw that, yes. So with that being the case, there are 2 major components for in-person communication. And I say in-person quite a bit these days, right? Those 2 components that happen are listening, which is actually processing. So you hear with your ears, but you listen with your brain. And so it is not actually a physical thing that you do in terms of listening, it's a cognitive issue. So how you choose to do that and what habits you have around that are vitally important right now, because most of the information you're getting in your communication is occurring through listening, not through body language or energy or how the room is reading, right? The second is discussion and conflict. So decisions that stick actually require discussion and disagreement in order for people to commit to them. Have you felt like there's been less commitment to everything lately? Little bit because of the pandemic and a little bit because everything feels slightly removed and slightly a little bit away. The more and deeper discussion you have, the more you are going to get a solid commitment from people moving forward. And that's important, particularly when you're trying to make sales for your business. So let's dive into that a little bit about why we continue to think that that's important, right? So listening and processing. So we talked about listening as a cognitive or brain-based function, right? You listen with your ears, but what you hear is actually being filtered through your brain. Do you know what your brain thinks or hears, right? No two brains are alike, and we all listen to and for different things. And we filter those things through what we think about, care about, and already know, and that shifts our listening capacity. So let me give you an example. How many of you have one more time rolled your eyes in a meeting because we're hearing the same thing we have heard before from this person again and again, right? So you tune things out. But this time there was one tiny little piece of information that you had tuned out that actually shifted the way the conversation and the decision that needed to be made happened. And so if you are practicing poor listening habits because you've been relying so much on energy and body language and other things, you may not actually be getting to where you need to be getting. The other point with this is around the discussion and the conflict, right? So decisions without discussion lack the commitment. People don't tend to follow through on them, and if everybody's just like, yeah, whatever, this is great. Conflict, as many of you have heard me talk about before, occurs when two people are having differing opinions and they're interdependent on each other. Would you like to have more people interdependent on the work you're doing so they pay you? Okay. And we each have a conflict style that we prefer that can help or hinder us in moving forward in the discussion to an outcome that we need. And so knowing your own particular conflict style, which I'll talk a little bit further about in a minute, will help you move discussions forward. So just to give you a quick brief taste of what this looks like, I want to talk about the 4 primary listening habits, and these are from the scientifically based Echo Listening Profile. So there are 4 profiles out there. You are a connective listener, a reflective, analytical, or conceptual. And those are the 4 primary ones, but they come in a multitude of different weights. So some of us are highly connective, highly conceptual, and have almost no analytics to us whatsoever. Not that that sounds familiar to anyone who's spent any time talking to me about numbers, right? Other people have more analytical. So when I'm having a conversation with somebody who is higher in analytical and I'm talking about thoughts and feelings, they've checked out. They're done. This isn't an important piece of information for them. It's also important when you're leading a team of volunteers or a collaborator on projects, because if you're not speaking in a way where everyone in the group or everyone in the company is connecting to what you're saying, you're not getting your message effectively across. And so it's important that you understand each style of listening and what those people are looking for in their listening in order for them to be able to make a decision and stay engaged. So we have connective listeners who are filtering what they're hearing through their interests in other people, reflective listeners who are filtering what they hear through their own interests and purposes. Analytical people are looking for results and facts, and conceptual are those folks who are interested in concepts and possibilities and vision. How many of you feel like you have one of those things that may be a little heavier weighted than the other? Yeah, got the hands? Okay. So when you take the listening piece and then you move it forward into the conflict piece. So now you understand how it is that you're hearing things, and maybe you can make a guess at how someone is hearing those things. Now you have to have a discussion. And that discussion and or potentially disagreement means that you are going to have to figure out where in this chart here with the 5 conflict styles that are out there, that where you get your needs met or where you want other people's needs met. And so I'll give you the quick brief things you can read here. But the reason I bring this up, and part of the reason I believe it's deeply important to communication, is because if you don't understand your own conflict style, it gets more difficult for you to get to the outcome that you need moving forward. I will tell you that I learned a lot when I figured out that my primary conflict style is accommodate. And so anytime I would be in the middle of a sales call and they would ask me for an extra something, I would of course say yes, because I accommodate all of those things. And so now I am devaluing what I'm getting because I'm saying yes to too much, because that's simply how my habit, that's how I approach things. And so when you combine the two, between how you listen to things and how you know you have discussions and conflict, you can then make the shift to getting to the outcome that you need. And I'm going to be quick through the last of these because I don't want to take too long in this process. So we've developed a workshop that we put together for people to get better at listening and communicating for collaboration and outcomes. So it has the first session, which is around listening agility to improve engagement and collaboration, and really getting a sense of how you hear the things that you hear, how you process them, and what you can do to help communicate effectively across cognitively diverse groups. Okay, because we all don't think the same. Session 2 is around understanding conflict styles and behavior, and what conflict unfolds and escalates, how people react to it and the styles that they have, and what the typical constructive or destructive behaviors might be, tools to move forward when you're stuck, and proven strategies for maintaining healthy conflict, which is how we get to decision making. The last part that we have here for it is a session 3 where we're reliably putting insights into actions. So we'll talk more about those experiences and how you develop processes for yourself that will allow you to continue being successful in this. We also have 2 coaching sessions that are 30 minutes one-on-one to walk you through your individual profile with your trainer and the unique insights into your own specific strengths and habits. So the fine print of the workshop really is around, you get 7 hours of instruction from 2 incredibly intelligent, capable women. The 30-minute individual coaching sessions, the customized workbook, the echo listening profile, and the TKI. And that will give you the skills and knowledge to improve the way you communicate forever, regardless of whether we're in pandemic times or not. But it will also help you move forward in being a better communicator right now as we're dealing with the situations that we are in terms of COVID. And that's from Allison and myself. So she's joined us today to have that conversation. And again, we are communicating for outcomes and changing the way you do business, one conversation at a time. And the ask, see, Cindy, who isn't even here, I told you there were too many words. All right. Thank you for your attention and participation. Let's see if I can find where my mouse is and I can stop sharing a screen. Great. All right. Comments, feedbacks, and I guess I'm moderating my own Q&A, so this will be fun. Courtney, will you kick us off, please? Or not. Courtney may have stepped away for a moment. All right. Megan, I think that has you as next.
Okay, before I talk. Yeah, I will agree you have too many words on your screen, but I think you know that. I'm a visual learner, so I kind of got lost a little bit because I was trying to read, and as soon as I just started listening and stopped reading it, it was a little better.
Totally get it. Thank you.
2, one of your asks is your audience. I know what you're trying to do. I get the what. I have no idea who to suggest for this because you said nothing. Who are you currently thinking or targeting as your audience right now?
Yeah, it's a harder piece to nail down because there are 2 specific audiences that we originally identified. One was obviously leaders, CEOs, division managers, folks who lead other people. The second is the solopreneur. and the folks who are doing their own biz development and client delivery in the same kind of world in their own business, because communication is so incredibly vital for them. My hope is that that would kind of come through underneath, but it's not ringing true enough, and that's important feedback.
Yeah, because I kind of, knowing you, that's what I thought you were trying to get to, is that it's the solo people, but it just, it felt a little more corporate aimed in that presentation.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Marcus.
Price point. That would also really help us figure out who the workshops cater to. It sounds awesome, but it sounds very white glove and far beyond the means of a solopreneur to address. If that's going to be one of the buckets you're going to do, you already have to be a pretty successful solopreneur. But I'm just making an assumption here, you know.
I deliberately did not put the price in because my first question to all of you, as much as I grump about your prices, what do you think this is worth? So if you would do me a favor and just dump in the chat what you think we're charging for this, and then I'll tell you here in just a minute what that is. So I'd be very curious to see what you guys think the price point is before I actually tell you what it is.
So you want us to put in what we think you're charging, not what we think it's worth.
You can put in two numbers, what you think
Okay,
I'm charging and what you think it's worth. That'd be great. That's, you know, I'm doing market research on you all. And while I'm waiting for that information to come in, Melissa.
Okay, so what it's worth, I mean, if you could like help just unlock, you know, someone like me, if you could just unlock a communication block or error that's happening and just break open the doors of sales, it could be worth, you know, unlimited amounts of money, right? But anyway, I just had to rant on that for a moment because I think it's worth a lot. I know you're not charging as much as that's worth, but the value is huge. And I think I love your point about we're kind of listening in a we're now meeting in a real two-dimensional way, you know, with only listening and not having, you know, the body language and all the other 5 senses to experience people with. So I love that point. And I think I would love to see you really bring out the problem, your customers, your client's problem, the problem they're having right up front. Like, for example, what I've heard from people that I work with is that sales cycles are taking longer. People are canceling meetings, you know, discovering consult calls more often because, oh, we're just canceling a Zoom meeting. It's not a big deal, right? People are not willing to make decisions, or less willing to make decisions. And so, you know, you could pose it to that, like, if you're finding your sales cycles are taking longer, people are canceling on you, you're not closing deals on the first call, you know, it's probably because this communication barrier is happening with online meetings, or, you know, however you say that, but just really come out with those, because those will really speak to, especially solopreneurs. I can relate to that, you know, we have some really major problems that, you know, with Zoom communication that a lot of us are experiencing. So
yeah,
those
great.
are just my thoughts there.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm going to enjoy watching the replay back and getting that feedback. Ozzy?
Well, first of all, virtual hugs, because you and I have the same problem. And that is, we see the problem, we know a solution. Somehow getting that across can be challenging because it is. I mean, I listened to your presentation. I thought, boy, if you were selling that to me, you would have the easiest time imaginable because that's how I think. Selling it to other people can be very different. So I was listening to that. I will give you the same feedback you've given me a couple of times. And that is, you did an outstanding job describing the means to an end. But the end itself wasn't as compelling and clear as it should have been.
Perfect.
So I think I can stop now because that is exactly what you've told me probably half a dozen times since we've met. And I think, think back to the many times you've told me that and take it to heart because it applied to you as much as it did to me.
You mean I have to take my own damn advice?
You have to take your own damn advice, which I give to you lovingly from the bottom of my heart. Yes.
I appreciate that greatly. I do. Janelle.
I want to do a little commercial for Cindy in that I think that she would love what you put together. I don't think there were too many words. I thought it was really good. I also thought that you did a good job. I felt like underlying there was an intention as to who it was directed at. As a salesperson myself and as a business person, I felt, I want to do this. I was like, me, you know, that kind of thing. So I thought it was really good. I think that the identification of the problem was spot on. I think everybody was identifying, as I looked at the chat, people were talking, Amy was talking about getting an eye roll, you know, on this type of thing. So you did a really good job with that. The slide that I was identifying with and then I kind of did a gulp with was the slide that identified how we all argue and how important it is for discussion to take place. Because I'm noticing a lot in some of the meetings that I've been in recently, there's a lot of cutoff of discussion. We don't tend to discuss things. We're very efficiency focused right now. And I don't know if Zoom is bringing that in, but there's not a lot of brainstorming. There's not a lot of listening back and forth. And I hope to not be saying that, you know, that's not how I'm feeling about client types of things, but I'm feeling that way sometimes in sales presentations because people are so anxious to get to what is it going to cost me or what's going to, you know, how are we going to brainstorm through this? And we're also trying to look at what sales cycles are. So I felt like this course would be something that would be very good for salespeople, not just solopreneurs, but also salespeople in small and medium-sized businesses as well. So anyway, I think you're too hard on yourself about the slides. I think they look really good. I love the little side comments, you know. So Cindy you have to show it to Cindy because I don't think she'll have much to critique. So thank you.
Well, thank you. So, all right, for those of you who have been putting all of your amounts in the chat, really do appreciate that. It's fabulous market research for Allison and myself. Right now, it is currently priced at $695.
Oh.
So right about in that middle space for what we think solopreneurs might be able to afford and not decreasing the value of 7 hours of instruction, an hour worth of private coaching, and 2 assessments you're going to get out of the deal. So it is actually probably a very reasonably priced piece. Whether or not all solopreneurs can move forward with that is a different conversation, but all solopreneurs are potentially not the full market. For those of you who are interested in that workshop, if you drop me an email, I will send you a discount code for $100 off, simply because you're 1 million cups folks, and I like you, most of you. And we'll be happy to do that. But the workshop is scheduled for August 27th with a follow-up again 2 weeks after that. I think it's September 9th, maybe 10th. Thank you. From there. So one last comment from Ozzy again, and then I'm going to end us into our last piece of the day.
Yeah, I was scrolling through the chat, Jana, and I didn't see the link to the webinar or the included in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff moving through.
It may have passed you by. Yes. Allison, could you drop the registration page in there for us? So great. I appreciate that.
And also, if you want to just reach out, I got about 5,000 people on my LinkedIn network, and I think this would appeal to a good number of them. So I'd be happy to kind of say something about it and get it out there. It is obviously all over the world, so it's not just local.
Yeah.
But be happy to do it. Let me know. Shoot me an email and we can talk about how best I can do that. I like what you did, but then again, you made the same mistakes I made, so that's why I love you so much. You know.
Thank you, Ozzy. So yes, absolutely. So we'll put the link there. Allison's done that for the Peak Impact event registration there. And I will be reaching out to a few of you around LinkedIn pieces of that. So I appreciate that. Okay. So moving beyond presentations at this point for the last 5 minutes or so that we have together, who has had a win this week? Who would like some help this week? Or who has discovered a resource or an event we need to know about? Who had good news to share this week? Genevieve, how about you get us started?
Good news. I usually sign about one client every 3 months. Since I work for myself, I can't handle more than about a handful of clients at a time. But this month I actually signed 3 contracts. One that's a shorter time period, but 2 that hopefully are, thank you, are longer term contracts. So that was super exciting. And I also put something in the chat. It's gone long, far away about a fundraising event for Silent Auction Gala for BSA Scouts. If you want to get some exposure for your business, if you want to make a donation of services or items to get in front of a crowd, let me know. I'll put my email back in the chat again for that. We can talk. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Bartlemy.
Hey, thanks, Jana. Just germane to the presentations today, you know, with the help of Janelle and MAPR, we just dropped an article in the Greeley Tribune this morning that's already netted a couple sales out of that area. And it was an interview we did on Friday, and it's already out today with Harrison and ourselves together in a combined interview. So pretty exciting.
That's awesome. I love seeing that for you guys. All right. And Janelle.
I want to echo congratulations to the Color Pocket team as well as Harrison. You guys have a fantastic product. Harrison, it was great to hear more about what you're doing as well. But great synergy, great team, and thank you to 1 Million Cups, Jana, for bringing this group together, because that is just, it's phenomenal to see it getting traction. Repurpose that stuff like crazy. Repurpose it. You're gonna be just growing. So good stuff.
Good deal. And I do have to admit, while I get to be the face of all of this and look at all of you on a regular basis, my 2 partners in crime, both Natalie and Chris, I could not do this without them.
Chris
Natalie
is phenomenal.
Yes.
Chris always has these great pearls every conversation, but the whole Color Pocket team is phenomenal, and Chris does amazing work. So yes, to all of you, thank you.
Great. And Denny, do you have a win or resource or something fun for us?
Yeah, I guess a win. I have done radio and I have done TV even, but as I said at the beginning, it was my podcast debut with Tyler. So I think he has other community members on his podcast from the past. So if you're interested in learning nonprofits, and it's a little dated now. I'm sure everybody already gotten PPP, but he has a couple past podcasts that's interesting. So I put the link on the chat. So if you're interested in listening what's going on in the investor world during the pandemic, I talk about that with Tyler. So
great. All right. Well, we are right at 10 o'clock, so it was a pleasure. Thank you for joining us this morning. We will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel, with more presentations and fun. Go forth, have a great week, and we'll see you next week, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a great week.